Earth has always been an unpredictable place to live. But an increase in extreme weather and other terrestrial phenomena seems to be signaling changes on our planet. As storm chaser George Kourounis prepares for another season, he reflects on a memorable and sometimes terrifying year.
Hey, don't you wish you were in the Texas Panhandle today? 2005 was one of the most unbelievable weather years on record. It seems like the planet went wild. And being a storm chaser, it sure kept me busy the whole year. Between volcanoes, tornadoes, and hurricanes, I was busy almost every month of the year.
Although he has been at the center of these events for over a decade, Kourounis cannot fully explain the worsening trend.
We don't know exactly why the weather has gotten so intense this past year. We suspect that global warming may be part of this, but we don't know exactly whether it is man-made or a naturally occurring cycle. So I'm going out and learning as much as I can about these weather phenomena, these hurricanes and tornadoes, and maybe we'll learn more about what these patterns are like and whether we can expect another year of increased activity like 2005 in the not too distant future. Texas Panhandle dry line setup. Yeah, we got a nice...
George Kourounis has been staring down big storms for over 10 years.
Tornado watch box just went up.
But he is up for almost any challenge, even a fiery pit of molten lava.
Right. Well, I've been chasing tornadoes and hurricanes for almost 10 years now, and I'm really interested in expanding my horizons and getting into geological phenomenon as well, like volcanoes. And it just so happened that in early 2005, I was able to get aboard a expedition to the remote Erta Ale volcano in the Danakil Depression area of Ethiopia.
The Danakil Depression is one of the least hospitable places on Earth. Daytime temperatures soar to 45 degrees Celsius. There is armed conflict everywhere, and there are no roads. But there is a giant mountain of 2,000-degree molten rock. The perfect spot for George.
Our goal was to trek through the desert, climb up to the top of this volcano, and then I was going to descend down inside and film from within the volcano on top of the crusted lava lake. Radio test, 1, 2, 3. The trip itself was a grueling journey. It took us several days of driving across old lava flows, sharp rocks, intense heat, and we even had problems with flooding, believe it or not. It's one of the hottest deserts in the world, and we ended up having to deal with flash flood situations.
After 2 years of drought, a series of heavy rainfalls has made the terrain almost impassable. George and his guides work for hours in the scorching heat to move only a few meters. Adding to this already stressful situation, local skirmishes along the border have made the region even more dangerous. George must travel with armed guards for safety.
As you can see, well, there are no roads.
As the driving conditions worsen, George and his companions have to make a difficult decision.
Because of the flash flooding that we encountered, we actually had to abandon the vehicles at one point and decide to trek across the desert. We started in the pre-dawn morning and then trekked for 25 kilometers across these rough lava flows. And it was really, really difficult in the hottest heat of the day. And it took us all day to reach the top of the volcano. We actually got camels to transport our equipment up for us. And at the top of the volcano, it was certainly a relief to see the lava smoldering and smoking away when we finally made it to the top.
Once at the summit, the group discovers other challenges. The heat is more intense than anticipated, and the volcano emits huge amounts of toxic sulfur dioxide fumes, which blow everywhere as the crew prepares their equipment for the descent.
The gas actually combines with the moisture in your lungs to produce hydrosulfuric acid, which burns your eyes, stings your throat, and quite often we'd have to wear a respirator just to be able to walk around and do our work and filming around the volcano.
As George prepares to descend into the unpredictable lava of the Erta Ale volcano, he discovers that once again, Mother Nature has done the unexpected.
Getting down was quite an experience. It was like descending into the bowels of hell.
Looks like we made it. It's one of the toughest things I've ever done. Hiking for 25 kilometers in the Danakil Desert.
Adventurer George Kourounis has made the arduous trek into the remote Erta Ale volcano in Ethiopia. Things aren't going exactly as planned.
I actually got quite a bit of a surprise when we reached the summit of the volcano, in that the lava activity had changed from our previous reports that we'd gotten a couple of months earlier. The level of the lava lake had risen up, a crust had formed on top of the lava lake, and there was these hornitos rising maybe 10 meters out of the center, these cones, and they were smoldering and you could see the lava in them. And we didn't know how stable this crust was. I didn't know how thick it was, I didn't know how much lava was underneath, how far down the lava was, but we still had a plan to go down and film from the inside. And it was definitely a surprise. We were charting some unknown ground here. No one had walked on this lava before because it was some of the freshest land on Earth.
The team spends the whole day rigging the ropes and other safety gear, as well as testing the stability of the lava before George makes the treacherous descent. They push heavy rocks down on the dried lava bed to check for weaknesses. Falling through the crust is something you don't want to do.
When the expedition was originally being planned, they weren't planning on descending down into the volcano. I actually had to convince them to let me do this. And because of the instability of the crater walls, we used a special system that is designed for mine shaft rescues, that kind of thing. So even if I ran into trouble down at the bottom, the people up top could haul me up if there was an emergency.
George is tethered to the harness, and the last safety checks are completed.
Helmet camera is on.
Everything must run smooth, as George's life could be in the hands of his safety gear and his crew. Every detail is checked and rechecked.
Let me just get this all set.
He is lowered into the crater where 2,000-degree lava flows just below the crust.
Good. Good. Hold. Stop. Getting down was quite an experience. It was like descending into the bowels of hell. Extremely hot. Once I got down onto the crater floor, I was able to put on my heat suit, set up my tripod and my camera, and then do some exploring around. And I was actually really able to get close to these hornitos where the sulfur dioxide gas was billowing out of. It was like walking on the moon. I can only imagine how Neil Armstrong felt with his suit on, taking his first steps on the moon. And at one point, actually, as I was walking across the crust, my foot broke through, and I actually dropped a few inches. And that was disconcerting at best. After that, I had to be very, very careful wherever I stepped.
He completes the walk safely, adding another remarkable experience to his collection.
Getting so close to something that is that dangerous, it was exhilarating, but you have to have a certain amount of respect for that. This volcano could have at any point just started to erupt. The surface of the lake could have easily sank into the lava. It certainly was nice to know that there was a team of people there to help. Because out there in the desert, if something goes wrong, you're pretty much on your own.
An incredible adventure. Certainly nothing could top that, except perhaps the wild weather of 2005. George loves big weather. If it blows, rips, drenches, or spins, he's there, camera ready to take it all in. First up every year are tornadoes, and the 2005 season was a storm chaser's dream.
When it comes to tornadoes, the peak season is in May and June in the Tornado Alley section of the U.S., which stretches from Texas through Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and then up into the Dakotas. And every spring, I spend an entire month chasing these tornadoes, and I even bring people along from all over the world. They come and join me on a tour group, and we travel like nomads across the plains, just trying to see the worst weather that you can imagine. The tornado highlight for 2005 was definitely near the town of South Plains, Texas.
On that day in rural Texas, amazingly 2 tornadoes touched down simultaneously, a rare treat for George and his group. But 2 tornadoes are twice as dangerous.
We were actually able to get very, very close to this tornado, and as we approached, it got bigger and darker and more menacing looking. We're gonna be able to get really close to this. And we eventually were able to get close enough that we could actually hear the tornado. It sounded a bit like a waterfall. And it crossed the road directly in front of us as we watched it rope out. I got problems, man. We lost a side window, we got lost a windshield. The big problem with this particular tornado was that it had a lot of large hail that was being propelled around the tornado. These hailstones were huge. They were the size of softballs, and they were rock hard. It sounded like a gorilla pounding on the roof of the van. Oh, side window!
The massive hailstorm quickly becomes a dangerous situation for the chasers. George calls on his years of experience to keep his group safe.
I had a lot of difficulty trying to maintain control of the vehicle because the windshield was smashed out. There was a lot of glass that was flying in and landing in my lap. Visibility was terrible because of the rain, and the windshield wipers were destroyed as well. So trying to keep all of those things in mind while trying to navigate a van around a tornadic storm and keep the people inside safe is a real challenge.
Predicting tornadoes and coordinating intercepts is a full-time job in the field. It takes patience, stamina, and luck to get into the action.
Here's today's tornado probabilities. We actually have a moderate risk, which is pretty impressive. A typical tornado chase day starts off with making the morning forecast. And that's when you have to try and pinpoint the area where you think the best or worst storms are going to be. And so we'll start targeting and try and get into that position. We'll look at computer models, satellite images, all kinds of different data off the internet to try and figure out where our forecast should put us.
The first part of the day is spent collecting data, but it is later in the afternoon when the action heats up. As sunlight warms the open ground, hot air rises to produce the unpredictable weather.
The sun heats the ground heats the air, and then you have these huge thunderstorms that can billow up. And the rotating thunderstorms, which we call supercell storms, are the ones that are more likely to produce tornadoes. And they can be up to 60,000 feet high, which is twice the height of Mount Everest.
As these storms mature in the early afternoon, final data collection and analysis is completed, and a location is selected.
We've got a tornado watch box.
Once George decides on a game plan, the chase is on, tracking and approaching the twister from the south to avoid the worst of the winds and hail. The key is to never underestimate the power of these weather systems.
Turn around. It's turning back this way.
It is absolute.
Turn around. Get up, turn around.
Tornadoes pack the strongest winds in the world, and the amount of damage that these things can inflict on a town is almost beyond description. Roofs can be ripped off by an F2 tornado. An F3 tornado will destroy an entire house. When you get up into the F4 and F5 scale, that'll take an entire house and remove it from its concrete slab. And there's no way that you're safe inside your house, even in an F5 tornado. The safest place would be underground in a storm shelter or a basement. And in an F5, you might not even survive that.
Oh, it just took out a structure or something. Oh my God.
Oh, it is huge.
George has some advice for anyone unlucky enough to have to face one of these monster tornadoes.
If you're ever caught near a tornado, don't try to outrun it. Move at right angles, try and get away from the tornado if possible. One of the worst things you can do is get up underneath an overpass. The wind speed actually increases as it goes underneath these highway overpasses, so it's actually quite dangerous. And staying in your car is dangerous as well. Your car can be crumpled up like a Coke can and tossed 100 meters easily. If you can't escape, get into a ditch, lie down, and cover your head. That's your best protection.
The storm chasers relentlessly pursue their target along its path of destruction for as long as they possibly can, using video and still cameras to capture their encounter.
We'll follow the storm into the evening and then probably film lightning as the sun goes down, and then find a place to stay and do it all again the next day. Tornado season was barely over when hurricane season kicked into high gear. It really started with Hurricane Dennis hitting Pensacola in July of 2005. It was the first major hurricane of the year, and I knew I had to be there.
Down to the last hour or so before Hurricane Dennis makes his final landfall here in Florida.
Tornadoes are powerful, yet very concentrated in size. Their big brothers, hurricanes, can be many thousands of times bigger. And 2005 was one of the cruelest hurricane seasons in recorded history. Dennis, Wilma, Rita. Names that will not soon be forgotten. But one name, given to the storm of storms, will stay with George forever.
Katrina was definitely the most intense experience of my life. The most destructive hurricane to ever hit the US and the costliest ever. I didn't know how bad it was going to be when I started to pursue this storm. But as the days went on, leading up to the storm, traveling down through the central US, getting closer, we heard the reports of the storm getting stronger and stronger, and then the night before it hit, it was a strong Category 5 storm. And they don't get much stronger than that, anywhere. The predictions coming from the National Weather Service in New Orleans were ominous. They were talking about mass destruction, the potential for buildings crumbling, the tremendous loss of life. It was hard to believe, and we were worried because we knew that we were going to be on the strong side of the storm in Gulfport, Mississippi. And the night before the storm hit, it was uneasy at best. There was a small group of us in a steel-reinforced concrete parking garage, and we were up all night awaiting the storm, and we knew that it was going to be bad in the morning.
On the morning of August 29th, 2005, one of the most powerful hurricanes in recorded history hits land in the U.S. Although initially less intense than predicted, it was only the beginning.
As the day progressed, conditions deteriorated rapidly, and by midday, the winds were howling unlike I'd ever seen. There were pieces of sheet metal flying around in every direction. Bits of gravel from roofs were slamming into us, breaking car windows, and we couldn't even see across the street. The winds were so strong. We knew that there were possibly people dying around us. We couldn't tell what was going on. There was no communications, and it was an eerie, eerie feeling. Even though I'm there to enjoy the storm and to experience it as a storm chaser and to document it and share that footage, it's difficult to be in a situation like that where you know that there's so much destruction going on and there's nothing I can do about it.
George, the other chasers, and some media people are holed up in a concrete parking garage in downtown Gulfport. With wind speeds topping 150 miles an hour and debris flying everywhere, the only way George can maneuver is to virtually crawl across the floor. The risk of getting hit by a projectile is high, and George is very cautious.
It was like standing in a waterfall or being in a blender for 12 hours. It was one of the most incredible things to witness. Hurricanes are unlike tornadoes in that with a tornado, you're on the outside looking in. But with a hurricane, you're tasting it, you're breathing it, you're feeling it, you're smelling it for hours and hours at a time. And it's a complete immersive experience.
Immersive is an understatement. Whether from standing in driving rain for hours at a time, or actually standing right in the storm surge, George is nearly always completely wet. Not surprising, considering he is directly in the path of the most powerful part of the storm.
Where I was in Hurricane Katrina in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, that's where the worst damage was. The strong side of the storm was on the east side. New Orleans was actually on the weaker side of the storm, and it could have been a lot worse if the storm had tracked a little bit further west. But where we were, the destruction was completely widespread. There were boats that were pushed a half-mile inland, cars flipped upside down.
George is able to make it out safely, but what he witnesses as he drives north makes him quickly realize the scale of this incredible natural disaster.
The scene along the way was just block after block after block of complete destruction. It was unbelievable, just seeing boats overturned and buildings collapsed. It was unlike anything I'd seen.
From the earth, the sky, and the sea, increasingly powerful forces remind us that our planet is in transition.
2005 certainly was my busiest year ever as a storm chaser. With all the hurricanes, tornadoes, and volcanoes, it makes me wonder if these world weather patterns are changing, and maybe this is a harbinger of things to come. Summer is over. Time to go after the hurricanes, massive forest fires, and other unpredictable events that happen this time of year. We'll meet my buddy, Mark Robinson, who has the most unusual story of how he got into storm chasing. So saddle up and come ride the winds of autumn. Hurricanes are the brass ring of storm chasing. They're the loudest, wettest, and the most dangerous weather events on Earth.
George, move the truck!
I'm chasing again this year with my good buddy Mark Robinson, who's been with me on some of the wildest weather trips you can imagine, including Francis, Rita, and the mother of all hurricanes, Katrina. Now it's time to start going after this year's storms, starting with Ernesto, tracking up the Caribbean and threatening the eastern U.S. So I may end up flying into Miami tomorrow. But I can't get a flight out, which is incredibly frustrating. Well, bad news for me. It looks like the storm is going to hold tropical storm force strength across the Florida Straits. Then Florence, big and mean, moves across the Atlantic. The forecast track has this thing going right over top of Bermuda. I've never been to Bermuda before. How about tomorrow?
This one looks like a winner, but once again, trying to get a flight into the eye of a hurricane is almost impossible. Global warming is heating up the oceans, spawning, it is believed, more and more violent hurricanes, whose effects are being felt as far north as the Great Lakes.
Ernesto started off as a wave off the west coast of Africa, traveled all the way across the Atlantic, made a landfall in Florida, then again in North Carolina. Whoa, and this is the wind is now on Lake Ontario.
Surfers on Lake Erie, gales. This weather is nuts.
This is a frost warning. Oh, God.
Mark helped me document some of the crazy weather that was hitting the Great Lakes. We've done a lot of chasing together in the last few years.
Mark and I actually met through an online weather forum. It's a place where, weather-interested people get together and discuss forecasting and things like that. And we really hit it off. A few months later, I ended up taking him with me on his very first storm chasing trip to the central United States. It was his first time ever seeing these big supercell thunderstorms up close, and he was hooked right after that. This guy was really enthusiastic, and that's what I liked about him.
While we wait for a good storm to go after, I decide to check out some of my equipment at the NRC testing facility in Ottawa. Here, they test everything from aircraft design to ski jumping simulations, anything that requires incredibly fast wind speeds.
This is a scale model of the actual wind tunnel here at the National Research Council, and the blades of this fan are absolutely humongous compared to me. This little guy down here represents my size, and I'm going to be actually up here in the chamber receiving the full brunt of this fan. This is definitely one of the coolest machines I've ever seen. These huge fan blades are so well balanced that I can move this giant thing completely by hand and still be able to walk right through it. This is cool. I gotta get me one of these at home.
I brought my anemometer and some safety gear to see how they perform in hurricane-force winds. Although I've been in many hurricanes, I've never been in a simulator like this.
Okay.
First time ever in a wind tunnel, this should be interesting.
We're up at 30 kilometers an hour. We're up at 60. About 80 kilometers. Coming up, 140.
All right, we're going up to 150 kilometers per hour and adding water this time.
150.
It's amazing how real this feels. The water feels like millions of needles stabbing you all at once, just like in a real hurricane.
That is extremely unpleasant. I got water in my goggles. Yeah, that's nasty.
Hey Mark, it's George. Just was looking at the latest maps, and the NHC site actually has a bit of a further east track than the Canadian Hurricane Center. And be in touch first thing in the morning after the latest update comes out. Well, it looks like I've probably got a hurricane I can sink my teeth into now. Hurricane Isaac has formed east of Bermuda,
and it's making a beeline for the Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland right now, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the main city of St. John's. You have to wait until the very last minute in order to make sure it's worthwhile to go to the storm, but if the airport is closed, you're out of luck. Mark is joining me on the Newfoundland chase. He arrives in his not-so-high-tech storm-chasing vehicle, which looks more like something out of a Mad Max movie.
This is my chase car. It's my chase vehicle. It's got all sorts of stuff for chasing. Wind speed and direction. Normally wind speed works really well, but it broke off this year. This is some of my scanner antennas. It's got a sensor in there that does humidity and temperature in there. It's great. It works well when it's running. This is my incredibly high-tech anti-hum device.
That's nice, Mark, but I think we'll take a plane.
This particular storm, Isaac, it's kind of up and down. It's been changing its course, slightly offshore, then onshore again, then offshore again, fluctuating in intensity. Basically, finally made the decision, okay, here we are, we're going, and now on the plane. There's no turning back now unless the plane gets diverted, so I better not get diverted.
Okay, we got a huge problem. We're literally circling St. John's Airport right now, and because of the storm, it looks like we're not going to be able to land, so they're talking about diverting us to Stephenville, which is on the other side of the island. Can't see anything. We're about to land in one of the world's stormiest airports in near zero visibility. We're attempting to land in St. John's, Newfoundland, the new home of Hurricane Isaac.
Whenever you're dealing with weather, you're going to run into weather kicking your ass every now and then. And it's stressful. It's making me crazy.
Jusqu'à ce que les autres passagers soient sortis de l'appareil.
I don't know how we landed in this fog. I'm glad that we're here, though. Don't get me wrong.
We made it.
We've got to hustle if we're going to get to a good spot.
Okay, Mark, where am I going? I need to...
I know, we're looking for Gower. I can't see any street signs.
This is awful.
Can't see a thing.
I'm at Cape Spear right now, and the lighthouse behind me marks the most easterly point of all of North America. Isaac is starting to make his appearance right now, and I can really hear the surf has picked up tremendously. And what I want to do is get down by the rocks, down by the water, and see exactly how much wave action there is going on right now. So we gear up and head into the pitch black. We can hear the waves pounding, but we can't see a thing.
Right down by the danger zone, right on the rocks, right beside the ocean. I don't dare get any closer to the ocean than I am right now, because some huge waves pounding up here. If I go any further in, it'd be extremely unsafe. But that's my style. Whoa! As I almost fall into the sea.
While Mark is exploring the rugged coastline, he gets a phone call with some bad news.
Isaac is out to sea and accelerating.
So what, it took a sharp right turn?
It did a sharp right turn just before it made landfall, and we should have had it should have been right here on top of us right about now. And unfortunately, we have to be in England.
It's off to the east.
It's off to the east.
Well, that's pretty much that. Isaac has taken a sharp right turn and gone well out to sea. This is about as far east as you can get on the continent, so there's no way I can catch up to it. That's as close as I'm going to be able to get. I would have liked for it to have been a lot stronger than that, but that's storm chasing.
A few hours later, we watch Isaac sail out to sea. It's always disheartening to miss a storm, but for my chase buddy, it's a real test. You see, Mark got into storm chasing for the most unlikely reason.
Well, depression's something I've been fighting for, it's been years. It's hard to put a beginning point to it. It definitely was the worst about 6 years ago, and I got to the point where nothing gave me any enjoyment. I was doing nothing. It was really, really bad.
Desperately looking for something to help focus his life, he turned to a most unusual therapy: bad weather.
I'd always been interested in chasing and interested in storms, but I thought, I gotta check this out. I just gotta see what this is like, even though, I didn't have any interest in doing anything. I sort of forced myself out one day and got to this storm. All of a sudden, I felt something again. It was sudden, and it's sort of like, wow, this is something I gotta do again.
So, after the usual initiation, Mark joined our crazy fraternity. Hey Mark, you having fun?
Oh yeah.
And soon, he was encountering situations he never thought he could deal with. What's the matter, Mark?
There's 6 feet of water in front of us. There's 6 feet of water behind us. There's 6 feet of water to the side of us. And there's about 4 feet of mud to the other side of us. We're stuck.
Is this good?
No.
Including our infamous trip to Hurricane Katrina. A year later, while on a tornado chase, Mark and I went back to Gulfport, Mississippi, and the very spot where we spent our terrifying 2 days.
It just blows me away to see this place. I mean, we were standing here with this much water. Yeah, and I mean the whole area right in here was all like that. There's the courtyard, right? All the sculpture was in there, and now it's just. I mean, it's bizarre to see it like this. I'm doing a radio show on my journey through depression, and how chasing has allowed me to get through and really fight back against it. It's made all the difference in the world, because I've got something to live for. It's something incredible that I can do. It's something that not everybody would be willing to do, with all the frustrations, with all the heartache that does come with chasing. Depression's not something that goes away. It's not a cold where you get over it and you feel fine again. It's something you fight every day. I'm out here, I'm experiencing this, this journey out to here. The plane was frustrating, but that's part of it. It's all part of chasing, and I've come to accept that, the frustrations are as exciting as the actual storm itself. It all adds up to a passion in my life, and I wouldn't want to be without it.
What's next? Ontario's on fire, and I'm getting a front row seat. September isn't usually a peak forest fire season in northern Ontario, but this year, because it's been so dry and so hot, there's over 400 fires burning north of Lake Superior. I'm on an airstrip here right now in Thunder Bay, and the water bombers are getting fueled up and getting ready to take off. I'm going to be up in a helicopter filming the action from above. Should be an awesome day. All the indices are in place for big fires.
Pretty straightforward. They're all color-coded.
After a safety briefing, our pilot takes me up for a quick orientation flight. Then into some regulation gear and off to the command center.
Heliattack 137, Thunder Bay, go ahead. 60, that's right.
This is the main fire response command center here. Basically what these guys are doing is keeping track of where all the fires are, all the resources, the firefighters, the helicopters, the water bombers, everything. Got the radio control room over here for all the telecommunications. It's all done from here. This is the brain center of the whole fire operations here at Thunder Bay. This is a war room, and these commanders make split-second decisions that affect property and lives. The team here direct an army of water bombers, helicopters, trucks, and ground crews, some on loan from other provinces, to try and fight the vast string of fires. I get a briefing on the emergency and discover why the fire season is so extreme this year.
So each one of these stars represents a separate fire, right?
Each one of these stars.
Well, 2006 was a dry year right from the very start, and we've had a lot of fires. We've been dealing with the fire. This dry spell, this drought-like condition just kept worsening, and then what happened in early September was a lightning storm came through with thousands of lightning strikes. Warm, dry conditions, sparks in tinder dry forest has led us to experience extreme burning conditions.
It's a huge hub of activity here. There's helicopters constantly taking off and landing, and this whole operation here is just for stacking and organizing and cleaning all the hoses for the firemen to work.
Fighting forest fires takes miles of hoses and a small army to maintain them. It's an endless cycle of drying, repairing, and redeploying equipment to the crews. They have an entire tower just for drying, so naturally, I have to climb up it.
It's a good thing I'm not afraid of heights.
But now, it's time to get into the action. Our job today is to guide the water bombers to their target, then find a place to set down and assess the situation from the ground. This is some of the most extreme flying you'll ever see. Nobody but the pilots are allowed on this aircraft, so this footage is very rare. Don't planes usually slow down during landings? Imagine flying this huge plane at over 100 knots, inches off the water, then picking up a swimming pool and safely dropping it over an inferno. Over and over again. Now it's time to get on the ground and nice and close to the fires. Then we get involved in one of the craziest things I've ever seen done in the air. We've just landed in the middle of a raging forest fire to get a closer look.
We're actually right here at the fire line. We had to land the helicopter in the road, and that's really the only way to get to this fire. This is about as close as we can safely get. Luckily, we have an escape route here with this road that we just landed on.
I go deep into the forest to hang with an attack crew that's been fighting the fire line now for 72 hours.
This fire here is Thunder Bay 246, and we've been here now 3 days. And when we first got here, the fire was just out of control. And I believe that part of the fire is still out of control.
Romeo, how are you guys making out there with the chainsaw work?
We gotta pull back a few times because the fire is just too hot. This is very unusual for this time of year.
Never be uphill from the fire, because it can actually go faster uphill than it can downhill. And we just got word on the radio that the water bombers are coming back here, so it's time to get out of Dodge and not get sandwiched between the fire and the water bombers.
Sometimes you have to start a fire to stop one. Believe it or not, we're going to take this huge barrel of gelled aircraft fuel, hang it from a helicopter, fly over the blaze, and set the forest on fire. These flying flamethrowers are headed right into the inferno. Of course I'm going. The smoke and heat are so intense.
Yeah, looking good.
This may seem like madness, but this technique actually saves property, forests, and sometimes lives. These controlled burns are an attempt to cut off the fire's fuel supply and hopefully stop it in its tracks. The hurricanes and fires of autumn are over. Now it's time to see what the winter winds blow my way. I'm heading for Oklahoma right now for 4 weeks on the road, tracking the biggest, baddest storms I can find. There's nothing like seeing a storm that's twice the height of Mount Everest, focusing all its energy on a point where there's this tornado grinding up a farmer's field. It's a spectacular thing to see. Yeah, there's lots of times where there's blue sky with nothing to see but cows and cornfields and telephone poles, but it's punctuated by moments of absolute sheer terror. And that's where I want to be, up close to the action, but still be relatively safe. Relatively safe. Each spring here in the Great Plains of the central United States, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, cooler, drier air from the Rockies, and a strong jet stream overhead combine to create all kinds of severe weather, including tornadoes. On an average year, over 1,000 tornadoes touch down in the United States, most of them right here. And that's why this place has earned the nickname Tornado Alley. Of all my adventures, nothing beats tornado chasing for pure, heart-pounding exhilaration. If you want to chase big storms, you have to come to the Great Plains, ground zero of the craziest weather on Earth. If the Midwest is tornado country, then Oklahoma is capital city. Here, they get more tornadoes, big hail, and huge thunderstorms than just about anywhere on the planet. It's no surprise that the National Severe Storms Lab is here, as well as some of the most high-tech weather broadcasters in the world. This is WKTV in Oklahoma City. In this part of the country, weathermen are big stars. And Gary England is as big as they come. 35 years at Channel 9, numerous specials, and he was even in the blockbuster Twister.
Part of your house.
I got together with Gary to talk about what else? The weather.
You know, when we think of storms, I think across the country and around the world, Oklahoma comes to mind because we have a lot of tornadoes, and sometimes they're very large and they're very nasty. And people always wonder about Oklahoma, why do we have all this wild weather? But we're just at a latitude that it's just favorable for these storm systems to form because we have the jet stream in our area a good part of the year. We just have all the ingredients that you need.
In the past 10 years of storm chasing, the wild weather of the Midwest has made for some pretty hairy experiences.
Whoa!
Like the time we saw 2 tornadoes at once.
We got one tornado forming over here, probably on the ground. We got another tornado over here, definitely on the ground.
The F2 that crossed the road right in front of us. And the hailstorm that demolished 6 of our cars.
Look at this crater.
Hopefully, we get something really scary this year.
Right now I'm in Norman, Oklahoma, which is just south of Oklahoma City. And we're just starting the very beginning of the tornado chasing season right now. I'm going to be out here for a month.
Every year I come down to help guide groups of people from around the world to see the wildest weather on Earth.
Beautiful.
If you want to check and see exactly where I am, you can go to stormchaser.ca, and we have a live tracking map and a webcam so you can ride along. And that's it. All right, let's go.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what we're going to be doing out there.
I've been storm chasing with Charles Edwards for many years.
Follow a few safety precautions when there is a lot of lightning.
We're getting this group ready for 2 weeks on the road, driving from state to state, looking for storms.
You're outside the vehicle, big hail, you could get hurt. Inside the vehicle, you're fairly safe until the window busts out.
Then all bets are off. If there's big hail around, you'll get the chance to see it for sure. We want to be there as bad as you guys do, so we get right in there.
We push it pretty hard when we're actually chasing. Tonight we'll have a little barbecue out here, out by the pool area.
No, spouse will be going like that.
Hot and dry, here we go again. More dry air, more heat. 87 Orlando, 94 in the Dallas area. And once again, Texas and Louisiana, a lot of heat out there. Again, Kelly, on Getaway Friday for the Colonial, a hot one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
First day of the chase. Everybody is packed and pumped. Unfortunately, the weather is not cooperating.
Next hour or so, hopefully the sun will heat up things considerably here so that we can get some thunderstorm development.
Now we have to make the critical decision about where to position ourselves. And time is running out.
And it's getting late in the day. We need to have a criteria here. Do we call it off now or do we wait?
Give us another...
The worst part is the waiting. In this game, you have to be patient.
All right. You want to give it till...
6.
You want to give it till 6 o'clock?
I don't really see any reason to. I mean, I don't see anything to change in 5 minutes.
Tell everybody to do it. Good.
Hold off, get hotels there.
Selena would probably.
Chase?
Hold off.
Cancel.
Game over.
Game over.
Game over, man.
I mean, we were in a great position today if storms were to fire up, but today, they didn't. We're at the peak of the day, and now we're gonna basically give up on this and get into position for tomorrow. Boo, boo, boo. Now just watch. We'll pack up, we'll head out, and then the storms will fire up. Okay.
After days of great sunbathing weather, Mother Nature throws us a bone.
East of the Rockies, southeasterly winds and boundary layer moisture have become more favorable today for severe thunderstorms than the past couple days. Isolated damaging winds and very large hail may also accompany stronger cores this evening. Okay, well, this is encouraging. So we could get into golf ball hail, possibly. Oh. Maybe even bigger. Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. But we won't see one unless we get rolling. East we go. It may be hard to see, but there's our target thunderstorm. We're in a tornado watch box right now, and we've got a target storm. It's got an anvil on it. You can see where the updraft has gone up and is spreading out at the top of the troposphere. And that's a good sign. From a distance, it looks good, but we gotta get closer. And we're gonna try and intercept this thing, and it's just starting to get going, so looks like things are gonna really heat up this afternoon.
Like everything else down here, when these storms get going, they're big.
Right now, the storm's got a tornado warning on it. We've been tracking it for a couple hours now across some of the dirt roads. Tornado could form here any minute.
Well, this storm just produced about egg-sized hail. It pounded all around us. We luckily escaped getting any damage from that. It has strong rotation, so we're going to have to move here very shortly to get away from this. Stay ahead of it. The next county over, the bases should lower considerably, and that's when I expect possibly the tornado to produce.
This storm has fantastic tornado potential. Now, all we can do is wait. We're deep in Tornado Alley, closing in on the biggest storm we've seen so far this season. Tornadoes aren't the only weapon in nature's arsenal.
A little too close here, getting some big hail.
Hail is one of the most damaging elements of these storms. Here in Texas, these chunks of rock-hard ice can grow as big as grapefruits.
That's hail.
The hail's getting too big to drive safely, forcing us to pull over. We've learned from bitter experience what can happen if you don't take cover.
Look what it did to these.
How big does a hailstone have to be to do this kind of damage?
I find the best thing you can do when hail's pounding down around you, get out there and get some samples, quickly.
There's a lot of hail going off right now, and it sounds tremendous right now. I was just out in it, I'm soaked, and we're getting a bit pulverized by it. And we'll see how big these stones get. I might have to go out again.
We're in Aspermont, Texas, and we've been chasing this tornado-warned storm for several hours now. But we got to see hail, tremendous lightning, incredible storm structure.
Yeah, I love that one.
Look at these hailstones, they're humongous. That is massive. It is pouring. It's not fit for man or beast out here right now. So it was a great storm, and it's just been sitting there, just pouring away, not moving, and triggering these severe thunderstorm warnings and these couple of tornado warnings. So we're gonna have to take a long trek into the night, all the way back to Lubbock, in some horrendous, rainy, terrible conditions. Okay, let's go. Which motel? All right, hopefully we won't lose the windshield. I know. My most intense tornado chasing experience had to be the time when I was actually caught inside a tornado.
On May 9th, 2003, we were working severe thunderstorms around the state, and then one big thunderstorm developed in far southwestern Oklahoma.
I was driving at night just like this, just outside Oklahoma City.
Now, the most difficult weather situation, I believe, to deal with is when a weather system develops on top of you or a tornado develops in close proximity to you. You have very little time to respond.
While we were en route to this tornado, we could hear Channel 9 News, and they were actually broadcasting live. They had broken into their regular programming.
The first thing that really sounded our alarm was that we had a live camera miles southwest of us. Val Castor's storm tracker was there.
East of Channel 9, Wilshire, pretty near Wilshire Road.
We heard over the radio that the tornado was approaching Britton Road.
Now, this thing is a monster.
We heard the tornado was on the ground at I-35 and Britton Road.
East Britton, Wilshire, major tornadic event moving across the metropolitan area.
Just as we're passing the Britton Road overpass.
35 Britton Road area right now.
Oh shit! That's right here. It was wrapped in rain. You could see the explosion where it hit a power transformer right ahead of us.
And within minutes, Val Castor said to me, and I'm broadcasting live, and I hear Val saying, you know, on the radio to me, you know, Gary, it's over the station. Val, are you saying it's over the television station?
Yes, I'm saying it's right over Channel 9.
Get people out of this studio. Get them out of the studio. Val said it's close to the station. I shouted, get everybody out of here. Everybody just made a run for the shelter.
Come on, it's here.
Where are we going? Come on.
I heard it.
Yeah. Basically, got caught in the edge of the tornado. There was debris flying everywhere.
For a flash, I thought You know, I can stay here, and then, boy, just as quickly, my little brain said, you know, if it hits, you'll die.
So we had to drive with the wind to keep the impacts to a minimum.
Val, I said, keep talking, and I said, we got to evacuate.
The tornado actually passed directly over their studios, and they had to evacuate. They went down to the basement. They stopped broadcasting briefly.
So I got out of here.
Keep talking to us, Val.
We had to go and hide behind a shopping mall as the tornado passed by.
Got down to the shelter. Took me about 30, 40 seconds to get to shelter. By then, we hadn't been hit, so it was pretty obvious that we weren't going to be hit at that time, even though you could hear the thing in the air over the station. And I came back in here. We came back on the air. Val, can you hear me? It's looked like it's past us.
And it took about 10 or 15 minutes for my leg to stop shaking from the excitement.
When I came back, man, it was like someone gave me a shot of something to really jack me up, because my speech was rapid, my energy level was extremely high.
My heart was racing, and we ended up going down into Moore, where we were going to stay at this motel. The problem is, we go to pull in, and the motel had been obliterated by the F4 tornado that hit Moore the day before. It was just an unbelievable day and an unbelievable experience.
Every storm chaser has these down periods. It's important then who you're travelling with, the personalities, you know, the sense of camaraderie, the sense of humour, having an interest in the people you're travelling with.
There's always this kind of camaraderie, but also a bit of a competition. And a lot of practical jokes end up happening.
Yeah, I should have known.
Especially when there aren't a lot of storms. And you end up with a bunch of storm chasers who are bored.
I'm so bored, I'm like a 2x8.
With nothing to do. And looking to irritate each other.
You can have periods of several days or even a week where a ridge of high pressure may come down and there's just no weather, it's just clear blue sky. And so then you've got to think, well, what do we do when we're kicking up our heels?
There's lots to do. Why, there's the world's deepest hand-dug well. There's the world's largest ball of twine.
All right, this is the view from atop the world's largest ball of twine.
There's the Twister Movie Museum, the Leaning Water Tower, or how about the Cadillac Ranch? 10 luxury automobiles buried neatly in a row in a farmer's field.
What a ride, man. That tornado was wild.
Someone thought this was a good idea.
Best of all, there's the famous Big Texan Steakhouse, where they have oversized plastic livestock, cars that moo, people sing, people dance, and there's a giant piece of meat. If you can eat it in an hour, it's free. But what kind of an idiot would do that? Oh, never mind.
To accomplish this, you want to pace yourself. You got a full hour to do it in.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck to you.
I'll chase down hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, but this steak is what's going to do me in.
Remember, he only has 1 hour. Y'all give George a Texas hand and encourage him on.
He's got 20 minutes to go. 7.5.
Ain't gonna leave this house no longer. I'm getting ready to say.
1 minute and 10 seconds.
I can't
get up to get to the plate.
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Today there will be widespread outbreak of severe weather. The SPC is calling for an enhanced severe weather outlook. They have issued a very large 15% probability of tornadoes.
Not every big storm is wet.
Wall of dirt's coming, guys. Take cover. Okay, there was a tornado reported at Patricia. Yeah, it was right along the lead edge. Is there any east objects up here?
We just got sandblasted big time. Big dry thunderstorm. Not a lot of rain, but lots of wind. Oh, another big one right here. Hold on. Hold on. Far west over here. Okay, we still have to go a few miles further west. Try and intercept the better storm, which is going to be over here.
We head out of town to find even more dirt.
That was so cool. It was like being in the eye of a tornado. It was calm in the middle. I was running along beside it. And you could see the edge, all the dust being kicked up. And as long as I was right in the middle, the dead center, it was almost completely calm. Of course, then I got so much dust in my eyes. And there was this big arc of the edge of the dirt that was picking up, and you could see it, just this big 180-degree arc. And just running along to keep up the pace to stay right in the dead center of the thing.
Yeah, I got good footage. Never had a chance that close.
No, I was totally surprised to see the thing form right beside the cars. And it was like, as soon as I see it going, it's like, oh, I gotta go get this. I gotta, you know? If anyone's stupid enough to go and run after these things, it's gonna be me, so. Totally worth it, that was fun. Let's continue on our way. Just had a very cool little dust devil encounter. Dust devils are kind of like mini tornadoes, but not really. They're caused by the ground getting heated by the sun, and you get these thermals that form. And if the winds are just right at the surface, you can get a little bit of twist on them. And they form these little vortices that spin across these fields and form these columns of dirt. And running out into them is a lot of fun. It's cool. It was like being in the middle of the eye of the storm, so to speak. But it's murder on the eyes with all the grit and dirt flying around.
Oklahoma is an amazing place to see wild weather. Wait till you see where I'm going next. Our planet's surface is more than 70% water. What it creates, what it destroys, what happens on it and in it is all part of our world. As I explore the wild water of planet Earth, I could lose my lunch. Or a whole lot more.
Man has had many reasons to fear the water, not just for its waves and power, but also for what lies beneath. No animal is more feared than the one I'm going to look for, near Guadalupe Island, 150 kilometers off the Baja Peninsula in the Pacific Ocean. Each year, about 5 people are killed by sharks, yet 38 million sharks are killed by people, often for nothing more than a bowl of shark fin soup. What's the state of this shark population? What's the state of the oceans? I'm heading south to try and find some answers.
Tiny Guadalupe Island is one of the best spots in the world to get close to the ocean's most feared inhabitant.
This is where the journey really begins, here at H&M Landing in San Diego. The next 5 days are going to be spent on the boat, in the water, and in the shark cage.
surrounded by some of the biggest and baddest great white sharks in the world.
This is home for the next week, an 85-foot high-tech shark observation vessel. As we head for open ocean, our captain fills me in on what kind of conditions to expect.
So we're headed offshore to Guadalupe Island, and here we have about a 1 to 2 foot wind swell. Yeah. It's not too choppy, but as we get further offshore, the seas will build to 4 to 6 feet.
Right.
The winds are supposed to be 10 to 15 knots, and there we'll definitely notice a difference. Much more rock and roll with a 7 to 9 foot swell. So I'll be up here strapped in, hanging on, and making sure that we bring the boat back in one piece.
Great. Oh, I'm gonna be green, I just know it.
It's a long 24-hour voyage to the remote island, but as we approach it, I can see that it's the perfect spot for me.
You can actually tell that Guadalupe used to be an old ancient volcano. There's layer upon layer of pyroclastic flows that have built up over thousands and thousands of years. You can see where they've broken off into the sea. It's a really impressive island.
And as shark experts have discovered, a popular spot for one of the sea's most impressive creatures. Dive master Doc Ains runs this trip to Guadalupe.
These great white sharks have always been known on the west coast of the U.S., primarily in northern and central California. Everybody had originally thought that white sharks were primarily coastal sharks. Well, the data from the satellite tags is now telling us that these animals migrate over tremendous distances. We believe that what the white sharks are doing here at Guadalupe is using the island as a fueling stop in perhaps the midpoint of the migration out towards the Central Pacific. Primarily our focus here is underwater photography. This is probably the best place, at least right now, for getting underwater images of these animals. So we try and be as careful as possible with the animals.
Shark will come in this way, they'll pull it. Shark will come in this way, they'll pull it.
Bob Gladden is the ship's photography expert and has spent many hours underwater with the great whites.
They have a personality to start with. You start to see things with them, facial expressions, different behaviors and stuff with them, along with just how they react.
Nice. Right up to the camera.
They react differently than what we usually think. Unlike in the movies where they're always moving at a fast pace, most of the time they're moving very slow and very graceful in their movements, yet there are times when they can abruptly turn on the speed and do things.
The crew is busy getting ready for the first dive, but I have to take it easy for a while.
Even though it's beautiful, bright sunshine, the swells here are still pretty heavy, and there's been a few times here on this trip where I've been rather ill from the rocking of this boat. And I guess it's another part of the water that certainly take you out.
If you're prone to seasickness, this next job is definitely not for you. Recycle, recycle. Once San Diego's tuna fishermen are finished filleting the fish for human consumption, they give the remains to Doc Ains to return to the sea.
Nothing but the finest for my sharkies.
If you want great whites to visit you, this is the best invitation. This stuff is like a fish magnet. Soup's on. have to get my mind off my stomach now. It's time to go diving. I'm getting ready for my first dive with giant great white sharks. Finally, the cages go in. The crew is like a well-oiled machine. The cages are big and heavy, and the boat is constantly pitching, but they get them in and secured. And I'm next.
Okay, who's ready? Next diver. Spin around. All right, Doc. All right, you know what to do. Are you ready? I'm ready. Rolling.
The visibility here is incredible. The pole cam will keep an eye on us as we dive. I settle into the cage, and the crew sets the bait. It's definitely working on these guys. Now I just have to wait for the really big fish. But when you're a 2-ton eating machine, you show up for dinner when you're darn good and ready. Before I know it, my dive time is up for the day.
No sharks yet. Just lots of mackerel. And I got stung in the face by a jellyfish. Maybe tomorrow we'll see the great whites.
As the first dive day winds down, we rest and check out the day's footage and hope for success tomorrow.
Alright folks, well we're off here. Alright, well now's the time to ensure all your gear is secured, low and tight.
Well, there's already been a few sharks spotted this morning, and if we're lucky, they'll stick around all day. If we're really lucky, we'll get to see a big one that's maybe 12 or 14 feet long. If we're really lucky.
And today is our lucky day.
White shark! White shark! Yes, right there! Good! Go directly in the rotation! Group A! Group A!
A huge great white is spotted, and in seconds, I'm in the water. My adrenaline is pumping as I check out my surroundings. From out of nowhere, the biggest shark I've ever seen. This thing is the size of a tank. It's all I can do to hang on to my camera as it passes inches by me and tears into the tuna heads. And then, from below, another one, just as big.
Okay, that was amazing. 2 big sharks. I didn't know which way to look. You look this way? Shark. You turn around, look that way? Shark. The one time I was actually concerned because I'm sort of hanging outside the cage, which is a bit of a no-no. And filming this one shark, and I turn around, another one, and they're appearing out of nowhere. It's like blue, 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 shark. Turn around, another shark. Wow. Oh man, that was a great dive. Awesome. Nice. Big sharks too. Not these little wimpy girly sharks. We're talking big sharks.
Girl. Not the girls that are the wimpy sharks.
My next adventure, scary caves and huge waves. In a remote corner of northeastern Ontario, this powerful river combined with natural chemicals and time to secretly carve out an amazing underground cave system. The caves were discovered in 1952 by Tom Woodward, a local who conquered his fear of the unknown to make a remarkable discovery. I've come here to retrace Tom's adventure. Chris Hinsberger met Woodward when he was a boy and has been protecting the caves ever since. We descend more than 15 meters, where Chris explains how the caves were formed.
What exactly is the process of how this particular cave formed?
This cave, George, is a solution cave. Everywhere you look at these stone walls, you're seeing the subtle dissolving action of water over thousands of years.
The water from the Bonnechere River here is actually what carved the Bonnechere Caves. It was discovered by Tom Woodward, and he actually took a dinghy, brought it into the cave, and what fought the current. It's very similar to what this is. And I'm going to try recreating that by fighting this current here in the river itself. Looks pretty strong. I just got to rig up some ropes across the river for safety. The current here is pretty strong, so if I fall in, I could easily go down and head right over the waterfall.
I start rigging ropes, which doesn't go quite according to plan.
All right, I've got a rope rigged across the river, and now I'm going to run this one downstream in the center. And this will simulate the effect of the current.
The current from this river is surprisingly powerful and threatens to drag me down to the larger rapids downstream. But luckily, I catch an eddy and manage to swim out.
Holy crap! That's strong! Man, the current just swept my feet out from under me. You think it's, you think you can stand up in that kind of thing, but whew, I'm glad I had that safety line. I could actually hold on to it and slow my descent down the river, downstream, but I had a bit of a scare there.
Time to get on with the experiment.
Now, I'm going to be doing this in the river, but imagine Tom Woodward actually inside the cave trying to pull himself through a very similar current here. So this will be a little bit easier than what he had to do. And this is not going to be easy. I have to keep my weight at the front of the boat. Apparently the water level in the cave and the speed of the water would have been comparable to what we have here. One main difference though, in the cave, there would have been very sharp rocks right beside Tom's head on either side. When Tom came through these passages, there would have been a ton of water rushing through here. There would have been almost complete darkness. And these sharp edges here, they're like arrowheads sticking out the side of the rocks that were formed by the water rushing through here. And in his boat, he would have been in a lot of danger of actually slashing the side of the boat. And of course, he hit his head, dropped his flashlight, would have had no light whatsoever. And then he would have had no choice but to use his rope, pulling against the current and try and get out of here without getting killed. This sinkhole here is the actual natural cave entrance that Tom used to first enter the cave. He would have dragged his boat down in the ice and snow of the winter, lugged it down this slope,
and actually dumped it into the water and made his first exploration into the cave.
I'll return to the caves in the winter to finish my exploration. In the meantime, I'm off to explore another little river. At over 1 million gallons per second, Niagara Falls is the most famous and impressive display of water power on Earth.
One of the most powerful forces of nature occurs when you combine water with gravity. This is the Niagara River, and these rapids here are considered Class 6. That means they're extremely dangerous and virtually impassable to all boats, kayaks, and rafts.
Unless, of course, you have one of these.
Time to get on the jet boat. All I need now is my sexy outfit. Let's get wet. Time to kick it up a notch. This is a warm-up.
These 1,500 horsepower jet boats are the only thing that can navigate this wild water. I've returned to northeastern Ontario in the winter to continue Tom's cave adventure.
Taking a boat into an unexplored cave is crazy enough even in the best of conditions. But he did it in the dead of winter like it is now. So of course, that's how I have to do it.
The frozen conditions make it tough to get into the cave's original entry point.
Well, this is it for the land portion of this exploration. From here on in, nothing but water.
Besides the raging current, the cave's original explorer had one more thing to worry about.
When Tom was here exploring it, he did it in complete darkness.
Tom actually dropped his one and only flashlight. He never did find it. Because of that, he was trapped, he was stuck, not knowing when he was going to bump his head or when he was going to see the light of day ever again.
Fighting the powerful current and exploring the dark cave, full of nothing but bats and freezing water, I'm getting a good idea of what Tom Woodward experienced on his wild water adventure. These ancient caves, the mighty Niagara, and the oceans that are home to these magnificent creatures prove the influence that water has on the natural world.
Sharks have been in the fossil records as far back as 400 million years. And quite a few of them have not changed all that much in those eons. Sharks were around before the dinosaurs. They were even around before trees.
Most people come down here with a certain amount of fear, and they leave with a totally different vision of what sharks are. And it usually leaves a lasting impression that sticks with them the rest of their lives.
These creatures have been adapting to our changing planet for millions of years. And although Guadalupe Island appears to have a healthy shark population, these animals are being depleted worldwide at an alarming rate. Like sharks, we are dependent on the well-being of the world's water ecosystems. But only we have the power to destroy or preserve our blue planet. I'm constantly getting myself into hot water. This time, it's boiling hot.
Ah! Oh! Ow!
This is insane. I can't believe I'm actually contemplating doing this.
Everything okay?
It's gonna be complicated. On my list of things to do, don't get poached. Number 1.
In the middle of the Caribbean lies Dominica, a rugged island with all the usual beauty and charm of the West Indies, with one special feature particularly attractive to me. It is among the most volcanic places on Earth and home to one of the craziest natural phenomenon I have ever seen. Nestled deep in the most inaccessible part of the island is a lake, heated to the point of boiling by the intense volcanic activity that lies beneath it. After some initial research, I discovered that no one has ever been crazy enough to do extreme exploration of this site, until now. So, the plan is to build a custom traversing rig, somehow get it across the 300-foot boiling gorge, and secured at both ends. Then, go out on the line for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But is it even possible? There's only one way to find out. My first trip here is to explore.
So I just arrived in Dominica, and I'm heading over to the other side of the island where the boiling lake is. The driving is insane, the jungle is beautiful, and the whole point right now is I need to figure out if I can actually do this traverse across the boiling lake. I don't even know if it's possible to do that right now. So I need to get up there and take a look around, take some measurements, and figure out if I can actually pull this off. Oh, did I mention the potholes?
Here at Soufriere Sulphur Springs, hot volcanic rocks underground heat the groundwater, which then wells up and flows downstream. This water's hot enough, almost hot enough to make soup with.
These natural hot springs are famous for their medicinal and relaxing powers. I have to give it a try. Hopefully, this is the hottest water I get into on this adventure.
There's geothermal activity all over Dominica, including underwater. It's off to the Champagne Reef.
This amazing area is another byproduct of the highly volcanic island. Out here, underground gas is vented into the ocean in a most spectacular way, hence the name Champagne Reef. But where I'm going next is not so peaceful.
So this is the trail to the boiling lake. takes a few hours to get up there, and it's a pretty rough trail. The idea right now is to get up there and take a look and see how feasible it is to rig the ropes and without doing too much environmental damage. See how it goes.
After a tough 4-hour hike, we get to the lake.
So you put some tension on it.
I've come here with rigging and climbing experts Richard Matawi and Jeffrey Charles, who will lend their talents to this challenging expedition.
Just gonna take a little trip around the outside perimeter of the boiling lake, see how difficult it is to get access to the other side where we're gonna tie the ropes off.
Now the climbing gets even more difficult. The jungle on this side of the lake is so dense, it makes it almost impossible to walk. But this is where the anchors have to go.
Okay, well, this is encouraging. The boiling lake is very active. I'm able to get around to the other side to secure some anchors. And then the next step is to come back here and string the rope. I'm looking forward to it. It's a little scary though. No, really, it's really scary.
Time to get off this volcano and on to the next major hurdle. The boiling lake is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the government of Dominica takes its preservation very seriously. It takes a lot of convincing and a mountain of paperwork to get the permission we need to do this, but I think in the end, the authorities have confidence in our team.
Very good.
Back in Canada, I fly out to the Rocky Mountains and pay a visit to Dave West. My life will depend on the quality of the rigging, and Dave's is some of the best in the world.
Here's what you're going to do to tension this. So you're going to get the line across the lake. In here, load them so that they load the spine.
Not only does every piece of gear have to work perfectly, I also need to understand exactly how everything goes together.
Right, so that's just the join, that's, okay, great. This totally makes total sense to me.
Now we're ready to do some field testing.
How about right up here?
Yeah, this is a good spot, just over here.
So it's time for a real-world test of this rigging system. We've got a small canyon here. I'm gonna stretch the rope across and try it out here before going to the boiling lake.
One of our biggest challenges is how to get 300 feet of rope across the scalding hot lake. Here's one solution we're gonna try.
Okay, fire in the hole! Sweet, that was perfect. Couldn't get any better. Oh, this will be fine. Look at that, that's gonna be great.
Yeah. Okay?
Yep.
It's all working great on a nice clear day in Alberta.
Hold there.
But will the system keep me alive over a wild, unpredictable boiling lake in the Caribbean? I return to the highly volcanic island of Dominica, where, after months of planning, I'm going to attempt to be the first person to traverse the incredible boiling lake hidden deep in the jungle.
Okay, so this is it. I've returned to the West Indies. I'm back in Dominica. All my copious amounts of equipment made it, which is a miracle in itself. And now it's the big trek up to the boiling lake.
But before we do that, we have some major hurdles to get over. The rope rifle didn't have the range we needed, so I still have to find a way to get the lines to the far side of the lake. My buddy, Mark Robinson, an experienced archer, suggests this alternative approach.
That's easy.
Just tie some fishing line to the arrow and let her rip. I think this is gonna work.
So many preparations, so many details, and any single one of them will result in a catastrophic failure if it's overlooked. Kind of stressful. So tomorrow's the big day, the big hike. I hope we got everything.
Today's the big hike, and we have to get a huge amount of gear up this trail.
This kind of thing would be impossible without local help. A lot of local help.
Now it's 4 hours of hiking on rainy, slippery jungle trails.
That's the boiling lake. Doesn't look like much from here, but when you get close to it, it's gonna be pretty intimidating. All right, next stop, the Valley of Desolation.
I've made it to the Valley of Desolation, and this place is as bizarre, if not more so, than the boiling lake itself. Here you can get up close to these gas vents, fumaroles, and mud pots. It's like being on another planet.
This place is giving me an up-close perspective of what awaits me if I fall in the lake. The hot mud produced in this area is not only volatile and dangerous, it's also great for my complexion. After my spa treatment, we set up our makeshift camp. We've got to try and get off the ground as we're about to experience the Caribbean rainy season full on.
Last night was rough. We had torrential rains numerous times last night. High winds, blowing everything around. Horrible night, so wet and cold. The Dominican jungle in the rainy season is not a very happy place. So we're gonna try and rig everything up and get out of here as quickly as possible. I don't want to spend too many more nights here.
The energy for the morning, all in one pot.
You know what totally blows my mind? Is that we had so much rain last night, and yet you look out at the lake and it's still violently boiling. All that cold water that got dumped in there last night hasn't even affected the lake. So that gives you an idea of how much energy and power there is here.
So this is the trek to get to the other side of the lake so we can set our anchors and then get the rope across, but it's tricky.
Although the jungle is thick, the trees are small. So we need to design an elaborate anchoring system for this side.
This one here, we got this one here, and this one up here. We should be fine. The trees are pretty good, but we're pulling them uphill. We're doubling the webbing, right? All right, what we're gonna do is...
Once it's tensioned, then it's just forget about it.
Big difference together. We're gonna do another hand, quick other hand, and then we're gonna pass it the other side of the tree.
It takes hours, but I think we've got an anchoring system that'll hold me. I hope.
Anchors are rigged on the other side. Got to rig the anchors on this side, shoot the rope across, attach everything, test it, we'll be rocking. What a pain to get to the other side. I'm not looking forward to doing that again. I'm gonna send the bow, I'm gonna go up to the top with the fishing line. Gonna shoot the fishing line across. We'll just pull some polypropylene across and then we'll pull the ropes across.
Now it's time to test my archery skills. I take my best shot, but will it make it across? I'm making final preparations for my traverse across the boiling lake of Dominica. I have to shoot an arrow 300 feet to the other side.
Jeffrey, you see it?
You got it on your side?
Looks like Mark's idea was a good one. The bulk of our gear is all this specialized rope that now has to be hauled across this huge crater. It's a slow process, one rope at a time.
Okay, I'm gonna go over to the other side and get everything all attached with the truss hooks and pulleys. Okay.
Richard and Jeffrey are great assets with all kinds of rigging tricks to make things smoother and safer.
Yeah, I know. I can feel the bungee.
Go on to the other
But
one.
how's the Prussics down there? Are they holding?
Yep. The big moment. See if we can actually get this rope tight. Just give it a gentle pull with the four of us, just nice and easy. So the high line looks like it's holding right now. Not sure how much tension we want to put on it. Depends how much sag there is. I don't want to go become the human tea bag. Yeah, a little bit. It's time to do the weight test. So we got a big bag of rocks that's going to simulate my weight. We're going to put it out on the rope and see how far down it sags. See if it ends up in the water or not.
Here's what happens when you forget safety gear.
Ah! Ow! Ah! All right? Oh! Lesson learned. Gloves. I brought them for a reason, so I wouldn't get my hand pinched. Okay, take up a little bit of the slack. How do the trees look over there? They look solid on the webbing?
All right, let's start with.
We'll bring it out, bring it back.
All right.
It's locked. It's kind of creepy watching those bags go over the side, knowing that in a few minutes it's actually going to be me. This high line is looks pretty secure. I wanted to come down low right beside the lake to see what it looks like from the bottom. There's a reason why this has never been done before. When you look out and see these weights dangling above the lake and think that it's going to be a person, and you can feel the heat coming off of this thing. It's a good 40 feet above the lake. All right, so I'm measuring about 78 degrees Celsius. That's extremely hot, scaldingly hot just here. And this is where the cold water meets the hot. So out there, it's gonna be a lot hotter. I figure while I'm out there, let's cook a little lunch for the crew so the team gets something to eat when I return back to dry land.
Be a reason to bring you back.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Cool.
Everything's triple checked. Let's do it.
Give us a sign when you're ready.
Ready?
Okay, we're ready. I'm going to let out a foot.
Some last-minute tweaks add to my anxiety level.
Yeah, we're going to move it to the blue. We're going to move it to the blue. One
You
sec.
have to move it to the blue.
Okay, wait, nice and slow. Do it again. Okay, we've got 1 foot. Now you do 1 foot.
The unstable crater's edge makes the entry point treacherous.
Whoa.
This is the point of no return.
Okay, my full weight is on the rope now.
But will the rigging hold? It's all down to this. Just me and the boiling lake.
Whoa.
After months of planning, it's time to make a commitment.
Okay, my full weight is on the rope now.
My life now depends on how well we rig these ropes.
George, you okay?
So far, so good.
Okay, all my weight is on it.
How are the trees and everything? Are they taking it well?
Everything's good here.
You want to go further out?
Yes, I want to go further out.
I want to get right out where the lake is most violently boiling.
Give it more, give it more.
Of course, I have no idea how hot it'll be out there.
The lake is fantastic. It's boiling like mad.
Everything is holding. So far.
All right, let me drop the eggs down.
I can't believe you can cook eggs in a lake. But the intense heat and steam is starting to get to me.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty steamed out here. It's pretty hot. Bring me back in, please.
The crew starts to pull me in, but by the halfway point, the ropes begin to sag and vibrate. Everyone is pulling furiously as I struggle to get into position. I stumble at the last minute on the treacherous terrain.
Oh, back in.
But Richard manages to help me to safety.
Now, watch this. This is going to be real fun.
Another world's first. No one has ever been dangled above the boiling lake before. Took a lot of preparation and it's a bit scary, but mission accomplished.
I made it. Another successful adventure. Well, almost. Although I survived the jungle and the scalding water of the boiling lake, I could not escape this little guy. My adventure ended with 2 awful weeks of dengue fever.